Thanks for joining us tonight for a Dreamtime Transmission. Hopefully, these dreams help you drift into sleep easily. I would greatly appreciate it if you liked and subscribed before you drift off. New videos are released every night, so join us tomorrow if you like. Thank you, and good night.
From Soy Sapo. Does anybody have some meaning I could put to this? I remember it being kind of horrific, and I definitely got scared in my dream. There was a friend with me, don't remember who, I just remember friend, and they were almost disappointed in me when they saw this happen. I can't remember the rest of the dream.
From Kayla Kirby. So I had a dream last night where my boyfriend was away for something, and me and a mutual friend were hanging out, and I took my shirt off and was naked, and I forget if I actually kissed him or not, but he left and said that it was wrong. And then later I called my boyfriend, and he said the said friend messaged him, and then my boyfriend started crying, and then I woke up. And I decay what this means. I've never had feelings for said mutual friends. And I love my boyfriend more than anything, but I feel so guilty, and I kept crying over it. Dached, please help me.
From the French Fry Warrior. I dream regularly. Almost every night I will recall my dream. Almost every dream I have is of me in some, with a lack of better words, fucked up situation. I'm at war. I'm being hunted. I'm being shot, stabbed, beat. In one of the more vivid ones I remember entirely, I was bit by a fish with rabies and lived out 3 months awaiting my death with a bunch of events, all typically stressful, transpiring during this period. It ended with me being yelled at by the people I lived with in this dream, and me realizing it was a dream. I said, "You can't yell at me, this is my dream," and they instantly became pale and turned into true NPCs, which upon I gave myself Iron Man-style rockets on my hands and spiraled up into the air in an inferno of fire until I woke up from the excitement. None of these dreams I perceive as unpleasant when they are happening. When I am, for example, shot, it's more a feeling of puzzle solving, okay, what to do here, and not the emotions usually seen in a nightmare. I, however, rarely succeed with my puzzle, and if I do, there's just another one waiting until I die. However, when I wake up from these dreams, I am covered in sweat, wet to the touch. Very unpleasant, but even after the dream is over, it does not really feel as if I have been through an unpleasant dream. So, during and after the dream, they feel fine. I cannot usually perceive being frightened or distressed, but the fact that I wake up in a cold sweat in the middle of the night regularly seems to indicate otherwise. How do I change this? What do I do? Is lucid dreaming an option? I am fit, young, and been having this type of dreams for most of my life, but the cold sweats on top of it are kind of new.
From Pro Dial-Up. A few days ago I had this dream, and it left me feeling dizzy and nauseous when I woke up. Here's the dream. I awoke from my sleep and I was confused where I was. It was a weird grand ballroom type room. Very big. Once I got my bearings, I realized I was resting my head in a girl's lap. She said something to me like, "Did it happen again?" or "Did it hurt again?" Not sure, but I know the word was again. I then started crying in the dream. She then said, "Stay as long as you like, I don't mind." And so I did, and kept crying. She ran her fingers through my hair. After what felt like an eternity, she said, "It's time to get going, Thomas." I woke up all groggy, and I panicked because I slept through my 8 a.m. alarm and it was 1 p.m. I missed all my college classes. What was weird was how real it felt. How she said, "Stay as long as you like," and I missed my alarm. I felt her fingers in my hair. I felt my tears. It was relaxing but painful. What does this mean?
From Fuck Pickles, I've had this twice now. It starts as an ad for some product. I'm not sure what it is, nor the man reading the ad. As he's talking, his body starts decaying, slowly at first, but eventually he looks like a zombie, at which point he sprints towards the camera, and I wake up. Think I've watched too much Adult Swim. From The Grace to Get There. I take dreaming pretty seriously because I tend to have a lot of premonitions and visions of the future. But sometimes my dreams are so stupid or seemingly ridiculous, it just makes me laugh. And I think that the dream can't possibly have any meaning. I was at a very large indoor-outdoor barbecue restaurant in a place I've never been before. It was very busy and noisy with tons of people there. Outside, there were dozens of wooden tables with red and white checkered tablecloths on them. The ground was dirt with some sawdust and hay. I was there by myself, but I was talking to the people at my table and having a good time. The manager approached me and apologized that my food was taking so long. I said, "Yeah, it's been 2 hours," but I wasn't really upset about it. He said it will be out soon. One of the things I ordered was onion rings. And that's it. That's the dream. LOL. I found it to be kind of entertaining. If I end up going to a new barbecue restaurant, I'll let you guys know.
From Leia Master, I dream about 3 to 5 times a week. While dreaming last night, I had a memory in my dream of something happening, a person, or another dream. That often happens, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I remember. Of course it makes sense. Lol. But it never actually happened. It had also happened that in my dream, I dreamt a dream that I have really dreamt before, and wake up in my dream and tell my friends about it in my dream. I don't know why this happens so often. Can anyone else relate? Sorry if it's too confusing.
From dblog6866, I can frequently control my dreams and know that I am dreaming. In my latest one, I knew I was dreaming and said to myself, if this is a dream, I can fly if I want to. I began running and then flew up into the sky. I decided to fly to my childhood home. I flew over it and swooped down to see all around. It was very realistic. In another dream, I was in a large open courtyard. There was a single male standing in the center. I realized I was dreaming and thought to myself, I could beat this guy up with no consequences. I began punching and kicking him. When I woke up, all I felt was guilt and shame for beating the poor guy.
From Shot Raccoon score 5872. I 9th F am a collage student. I have relatively active dreams and often dream of crazy situations. Last night I dreamt I was in a swimming pool. A group of children started lining up for a parade on the edges of the pool. This is when I spot my younger self and swim over. I asked her name and she didn't respond. She then told me that this was her second life. She tells me she was once a collage student, but had died and been reborn. I'm not sure what to make of this, and I'm looking for any advice.
From M3MSQB. A few years ago, I had this dream. I was in an apocalyptic version of our world, where there were no people, only melted abominations. I died several times in that dream, taking control of other versions of me from a starting point in a house, specifically my grandparents' house. I adapt to mistakes, eventually getting past all of the abominations that kept killing me in that dream, until I came across a grassy slope that led down to an old and small run shack with high-tech stuff in it that was constantly running. But when I looked back out of the house, I saw an old man where I had come from. He was resting against a cane and was wearing a black suit with no features on his face, only a blank slate, and on the top of his head was short white hair, and I had a nice conversation with him. But it was in a non-human language, and eventually he asks for my phone, which I hand it to him, and he dials my phone number, which just then I wake up just after he starts calling my number. And once I woke up, I see my phone receiving an unknown call on my bedside table. But before I could answer, it stopped ringing, and the call ended. This was an actual dream and experience I had, and the scary part was that I was fully lucid during that dream. I could move and act on my own, but I had the urge to go to a specific location, which led me to that strange old shack and that mysterious old man. I felt a very deep connection to him, despite him not being familiar in any way, and I still remember that dream like it's a real-life experience.
From Mocha Frap with Whip. Graphic dreams, including children. I will not be going into details. I am the oldest sibling and haven't even reached the age 20 yet, so the younger siblings I talk about are single-digit age or barely a teen. Hey, this is my first time on the subreddit, but I need some advice. I've been having them weird dream every blue moon. They're never reoccurring, but they involve my close immediate family and events that could happen in their life. I have 4 younger siblings, and the dream have already happened to like 3 of them. The first one was my youngest brother. He has a disorder, so he goes to doctors to get checkups for it to help his IEP. I had a dream that I went with him to the doctors, and there was this crazy doctor who locked him in of the rooms, And the last thing to happen before waking up was hearing his screams through a door I couldn't open. When I woke up, I cried, and the dream stuck with me for days before I was able to stop thinking about it. My baby sister happened second. Hers was less terrifying, but still graphic. She's the clumsy, playful one out of the family. She was running at me in our home upstairs when I moved out the way, not realizing that the stairs were behind me. I turned to stop her, and it was like slow motion seeing her fall, and the crack sounded when she hit the stairs face first. Again, cried when I woke up. The dream stayed with me for days before I was even to take my mind off of it. The most recent one was my younger brother. He's a teenage athlete, so he's a tad bit lazy and had an injured leg. This is the only dream that happened in a place home that didn't make sense or I wasn't familiar with. Me and him were chilling watching something when a person knocked on the door. He came in asking for someone before using the bathroom. My mom was upstairs cleaning when she was microwaving a toy horse, I don't know why. And my brother's toy elf on the self thingy, not an actual toy he even have, was accidentally put in there. For some reason, I could see it from downstairs. And I called my brother to go get his toy when my mom got mad at him for not cleaning up after himself. I could see his face as he tried to run, but she grabbed him and started hitting him with something. Then out of nowhere, she had a saw and was cutting his now wooden leg, IDK either, before somehow he got pushed down these long wooden stairs in like an overhead shot. Before my mom somehow got downstairs, she went from worried to irritation, probably because she realized he wasn't hurt to bad before hitting him in her injured leg. That's when I finally got control of my body and yelled at my mom before helping my brother upstairs. The last part really just plays in my head over and over again. They happen months or years in between each other, are never reoccurring. But after a while, usually I forget my nightmares, but they all just stay in my head, popping up at the worst possible times. Sometimes in my other dreams, there will be details of some of the moments of these specific type of dreams that make me remember them all over again. What does this mean? I don't know if my brainal is just fucking with me or if I'm just a morbid person. I don't enjoy these dreams and I wish I can forget all of them. I'm in college now, going home in a couple of days, and I just want to hug my brother.
From No Mud 9345. I've seen a few people post on here about words or whole seemingly random sentences popping into their head during hypnagogia, when your brain is almost asleep but not quite. This happens to me sometimes, although not super often. But the other night the words coming through were a family member who is very sick and had a TBI, so I tried to focus on them so I could hear what they wanted to say. I think I fell all the way to sleep. Everything was black. We were both standing in an all-dark space, and they were coming through loud and clear. It wasn't like I was dreaming, but that I was letting the words through. We had a whole conversation. I remember it. Just wondering what people think, or if there are any similar experiences out there.
From Paris Dew, I fell asleep while doing facial. While asleep, I dreamt that I was asleep while doing facial, and I could hear the music that was playing at the facial place. I could feel the warmth on the bed. Both are really happening IRL, but I could feel my body drifting away, like I'm floating and I had no control over my body. I gradually drifted out of the room. Later, when the therapist came back to the room, she saw me drifting with eyes closed, and the others were scared, but she waited. In my mind, I was aware of my surroundings, but I could not seem to get up. I was confused and wonder if I was really dreaming because it felt so real. Finally, I woke up and found myself in bed, and I asked if I left the bed and were floating in the air, and she admitted yes. She told me that everyone did what they could to help me wake up. Then I woke up IRL still in the facial room. I never had such an experience before. Is this a lucid dream or something else?
From Cat Bunny 123. Last night in my dream, I was looking out a window in my living room, and there was a yellow and black wasp right outside of my window. The wasp lived in a spider web instead of a hive. I remember just watching it and thinking it was so cute. Whenever I would move my fingers around on the window, it would follow it. Its face, for whatever reason, was reminding me of an owl, and I just kept thinking about that over and over again throughout the whole dream. I was so mesmerized by how cute and pretty the wasp was. Suddenly, a black bug squeezed under the window, causing the wasp to squeeze under the window as well and start flying in the room, causing me to panic, which caused it fly over and sting me. Immediately, once I was stung, I woke up. Does anyone have any idea what this could mean?
From Meowhoos. For 2 years I was haunted by the same nightmare. I had ordinary dreams, but something remained unchanged, something in the mask that watched me in absolutely every dream. At first it drove me crazy. Even when this silhouette was clear, I saw him showing me various finger patterns, but I couldn't understand what it all meant. It stopped after a month, but then it started again. I'm standing in a field and can't move. In the distance you can see a black spot that looks like a silhouette. Every time I fell asleep, it came closer to me. This lasted for 1.5 years. In the last dream, it stood next to me and strangled me. I barely woke up. The bruise on my neck went numb and has not gone away to this day. To tell the truth, I suffered. I had to stay awake for days to avoid seeing this nightmare at least a little, and I'm glad it's all over. Although lately the bruises have started to hurt more.
From Wascat, so I just woke up from it 10 minutes ago. Like my ears are ringing and they feel like they popped. The dream started with me in a fancy version of my bedroom. It has a couch, and my flag was replaced with a huge TV, along with Christmas lights everywhere, and I had a big window leading into an empty void. IDK how I found out, but eventually I figured out I was dreaming. So I looked at my hands and realized this was fake, so I tried to wake myself up. I felt relief when I managed to do it. I'm pretty sure I checked my hands again, and it was fake, and I realized I was likely trapped. IDK if this happened before or after everything else, but I kept trying to convince my brain to not think of anything scary, but eventually my entire room went dark. There was gray flashing everywhere, and I was slowly moving around trying to wake up, and I started crawling around desperately on my floor, unable to stand as my vision blurred to the point where I was literally blind. There was a really loud noise that kept getting louder until the point where my ears felt like fucking exploding as gray flashes were everywhere. Eventually, I started seeing giant black silhouettes surrounding me, and I woke up. I checked my hands, and it was still a dream. I remember trying to enjoy myself. I then remembered the rule to not look at my reflection in my dream. I did so for a second, and I looked really nightmarish, so I looked away. I decided to use the TV, 'cause why not? If I was in this nightmare world, I'd want to enjoy myself. So I started listening to music that made me feel happy. But it's like the dream was taunting me. I wanted to wake up so badly. It kept flashing and showing me stuff I normally do on my laptop but can't. It flashed conversations I've had and flashed other stuff. Eventually I saw my reflection, but I had a different hoodie on. I had a blue on. When I looked down, my actual self had a black one. I looked behind me in the mirror and I had a purple hoodie. And then I picked up a mirror and looked into it, and I saw my younger self when I was 9 having fun. I started crying, and then eventually my dream had some weird subplot where I had another dream. I don't really remember it. I just remember being based on a field trip from the 4th grade. Eventually, I woke up back in the room, and things just repeated over and over. I'd cry and wake myself up only to be back in the dream. Occasionally, I'd leave my room and try to explore my house, but I was too scared because it was pitch black out and none of the lights worked. I walked out, and the hallway was a perfect replica of my real hall. I opened my parents' room to see them, but the room was empty and there was just trash on the floor. Everything repeated a few times before I decided I can maybe see if I could get my brother to wake me up somehow, so I walked downstairs, but all of a sudden I heard a dog, one of my worst fears. And I instantly started running back up the stairs, and as I tried to close my bedroom door, a bunch of clothes and stuffed animals were in the way. But as I was moving them, the dog made it upstairs, and I tried to close the door, but it was no use from the stuff blocking the door, so the door opened, and it jumped on me, and right before it could bite me, I could feel my actual body. And then I realized I woke up. Umph-gee, the relief. I'm actually getting shivers as I write this, and I feel like crying.
From Limp Ground 7447. Anyone else have the issue when you question dream entities about their existence? Your dream will crash right after. They freeze and everything around you gets louder till it physically hurts, so you have to end the dream as fast as possible. For me, it's death that quickly ends it, and that causes a black screen filled with random code and a piercing noise till I wake is immediately after. I was once able to fully question an entity in a dream which manifested into my friend. I asked how it feels to be a figment of my imagination, and he replied, "How would you feel if you were figment of the imagination of a madman's mind?" I got deeper, but that's what struck me and remember the most. I felt kind of bad for it. The next time I tried it was on a random entity drilling into a wall. Before I could even get my words out, everything around me froze, and he stared at me. It started to ring in all directions. The noise grew louder and louder till it felt like I was getting physically hurt from it. The pain was so immense, I did what I thought would end it. I drilled the entity's head for the stalled process would end, and then my own to full end loop. The worst part, I felt every inch of the bit entering my skull, and sickly but good feeling as it turned my brains around. Now for half a second, I'm in physical pain from the ringing and drill, but the same time in nirvana since my brain was turned into mush. Then black screen, code, and BIOS logo screen thing. I try to compare computers to my dreams as I feel it helps me understand it some more. But I haven't used it in that sense since that dream. Now I am afraid to ask my dream anything like that, so I just let them flow now. Which sucks lately since I have been having stress dreams.
From Liminal Creations. So IRL, I play the cello, piano, and ukulele. So occasionally these things pop up in my dreams, especially the cello since I play in my university's orchestra, IRL. I often have dreams where I freestyle, which I really can't do IRL, but always in my dreams. I'm surprised by just how good it sounds. Like I've even been able to remember the tunes I was playing when I wake up, and they're always kind of weird. But in the dreams, they just sound and feel amazing. Well, last night I had a dream where I was just listening, not playing with, my university's orchestra. They were playing Vaughan Williams' Fantasia, which IRL we just recently performed. This is the first time I've heard a real song in my dreams, and holy crap. This was the most angelic thing I've ever heard in my life. Sounded just absolutely heavenly. I'm just so surprised that my brain was able to put every part of that complicated piece together in my dream. Like, this is a song with 15 individual parts. Most orchestral music only has 5, and still my brain seemed to be able to include every part perfectly. Sorry, I'm just rambling at this point, but I'm curious if anyone else ever listens to music in their dreams. Does it sound amazing too? I'm actually so interested in this now.
From Queen Etheria. I've always had lucid dreams for as long as I can remember. They tend to be random, but I've noticed they've been happening more frequently. They would happen maybe once every 5 to 6 months, and the frequency has amped up significantly. Anyway, on to my story. As usual, I don't remember every aspect of the dream. I remember being in a big building, and it was set up kind of as a classroom/lab of sorts. There were tables scattered about, and each table had its own problem a group would have to solve. I was there early, before anyone else had showed up, and found one of the solutions to the problems. So when everyone came in, I was able to win first place because I already knew the answer. Fast forward, everyone leaves, and I'm thinking, okay, I should probably wake up now. I'm walking around and still can't wake up. Then I remember, Paul is here. Keep in mind that I have zero clue who the fuck Paul is, but I know that he can help me, and I know I need to get to him quick. There was a door near the entrance of this place I was in, so I open the door, and it opens to this long hallway. I start yelling for Paul, and he pops his head out of one of the doors in the hallway and says, "Hey, I'm over here." I walk into his office and start frantically telling him, "I'm not supposed to be here. I need to wake up. Please, you need to help me. I need to wake up. Please help me wake the fuck up." In an instant, I wake up in my bedroom. I look over to see if my husband was in bed yet, and notice that something wasn't right. I felt really scared, as if I still wasn't in the right place. My room looked 10x bigger than it really was, and there was nothing but blackness in front of my bed. I knew I was still dreaming and thought, okay, I just need to fall back asleep and I'll actually wake up. I closed my eyes for what felt like maybe a few seconds, opened them, and there I was in my real bedroom. Has anyone else had this sort of experience where you knew you weren't supposed to be where you were in a dream? The dream seemed so insignificant and quite honestly stupid, but I genuinely felt I was in the wrong place. I knew I was dreaming, there's no doubt. When this happens, I like to touch things and am so shocked at how truly real they feel, which I remember doing in this dream as well. Also, who the fuck is Paul?
Hopefully, you aren't hearing this message because you are asleep, but if you are still awake, I would like to thank you for joining us for tonight's Dreamtime Transmission.